Buy a business with $0 of your own money using the network in your phone by doing these 5 things. First, create a list of 30 people from your phone contacts and make sure that they're most likely to have $50,000 or more. Second, reconnect with them and ask them about life, eventually talking about career goals. Remember, prioritize the relationship. Third, when they reciprocate the question about career goals, tell them you've been thinking about buying a business. And fourth, present them with a hypothetical business deal in 60 to 120 seconds by telling them how businesses are valued and walking them through the cash flow at a high level. Fifth, ask them if they know anybody interested in an investment like that. This relieves the pressure and gives them space to say they're interested, but also gets you a referral. Do these 5 things until you have enough capital to buy a business with $0 out of pocket. Now, you might be saying, yeah, I want to buy a business with $0 out of pocket, but who should I really be looking for when I'm young? I'm 24. Again, I'm a young guy too. I know what it feels like to not have experience. It's hard to build trust. And when I was in college, I was trying to do a lot of that. And I didn't really know what I was talking about. So the first thing, of course, is before you start looking for somebody, make sure that you can really talk the talk and walk the walk, that you're willing to take the risk and willing to walk people through the fears that they have about their money. And you can show them that their money is protected. Alas, I digress. Who should you be looking for? First thing, parents. Parents, friends, people in your community. So if you're really tied into a church or a charity, or something where rich people are doing stuff like a hobby. Like if you really like riding horses, wealthier people tend to ride horses. And of course there are people who are not wealthy that ride horses, but you can definitely get into some wealthier hobbies. Some of that might be horse riding, some of that might be like certain gun ranges or certain country clubs. Like get into those kind of communities and entrench yourself into them and then start networking. And that can start with your parents. If your parents are kind of upper middle class people, then of course, get around their friends. If your parents aren't upper middle class people, you can also ask yourself, what are people my age who are making $150,000, $200,000 a year or more currently doing? Where do they spend their time? And start to get into those communities. Basically, you want somebody with a lot of disposable income who has either had a lot of time to save or does not have a lot of expenses. And parents, kind of in that late 40s, early 50s, late 50s age, they've had a lot of time to save. And if they have a good disposable income and they've saved well and they've invested well, they probably have that money to invest into a business. If they're younger, kind of mid to late 20s, early 30s, you can look for those people too, but you need to make sure that they have a high income and that they keep their living expenses relatively low. If they're out driving a Lamborghini, and they make $150,000 a year, you know they're probably broke. So, look in your immediate community first. Parents, first and foremost. Friends with high incomes and good discretionary income, if you will. That's who I'd be looking for because those people already trust you, they already know you, and they know your character. And if you have some character that's not trustworthy, maybe rethink going to buy a business right now and prove to yourself that you are a person that is trustworthy, and then start proving that to the people around you by being that. Second place you look, say your community just sucks. Your parents are broke, your friends are broke, you don't know where rich people hang out. Buy into a community of entrepreneurs. And so I mentioned a little bit how I was trying to raise capital in college, but it was hard to get people to trust me, and that's because I was on my own. I didn't have anybody with any credibility around me, and the people who were around me, I had to sell them on the stuff that I was getting sold on. Real estate was a big deal, and you could buy and hold, and you could fix and flip, and you could do all these things, but I was just learning about that. And so as I was being sold on it by bigger pockets, I was trying to sell people on it when I wasn't even fully sold yet. And so not only could I not display that conviction, but I had some doubts about myself. I had some lower self-confidence because I was on my own. I wasn't around people who were successfully doing it. I would just hear stories about it. The closer you can bring the success to you, the more convicted you'll be about it. So start talking to people who are in the game right now by getting into a community of entrepreneurs. You have Pace Morby's community, active real estate investors, and also people who are actively buying businesses as of maybe a month or two ago. You have Cody Sanchez's community, which is like a basically buying simple, boring businesses and cash flowing off Main Street investments. And those are the two communities I would go join and then hear about other mergers and acquisitions communities as well. Try to connect with people who have implemented Hormozy stuff and are running businesses, but just get around your local entrepreneurial groups. I think there's this one networking organization that has a lot of small business owners kind of sending each other referrals, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but get into those groups on meetup.com. You'll see entrepreneurs gather, associations, organizations. Just look it up and look where entrepreneurs are going, what conferences are going to, who's running those conferences, and how you can get into that community. And then pay to join that community. Pay for those relationships. And I know a lot of you, I just lost there. But the important part about paying for those relationships is realizing that everybody else paid the same price, so you're acknowledging that you're committed to a certain level. And so when I joined Pace Morby's community probably 3 months ago, like it is October 2023 right now, and I think I joined in July. And since joining, I've gone through a roller coaster kind of strategy shift, but I've built 13 to 15 relationships. I've had 13 to 15 calls with people who said, I have money, or I know somebody who has money, and I'm willing to give you money for those properties. And I came across a new strategy that was really aligned with my goal. That never would have happened if I didn't join Pace Morby's community. So, what you guys need to be doing is looking for those entrepreneurial communities or networking and finding the entrepreneurs around you, finding the investors around you in your immediate community. Go put yourself where success is, and it'll just start to seep in. And everything you think and do will end up being successful because you're around successful people, so you can't help it. So that's who you should be looking for. And then in those conversations, you have to explain a business in 60 to 120 seconds. So just explain to them what a hypothetical business deal looks like. And that's really a 2 to 3 times multiple at these smaller levels. Like unless you're going to buy a $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, $30, $50 million business, you're really going to see a 2 to 3x multiple if the cash flow is like under $1 million or under $2 million, I think is what you'll see. And so for a lot of you, when you're buying your first business and you're buying like a $2 million, $3 million business, it might generate $750,000 in cash flow. You might be able to buy that business for $2 million, right? And the debt would probably take about 50 to 60% of the cash flow, if not a little more, depending on what multiple level you bought at. Honestly, I would buy you got to buy the right size business. You don't want to buy too small. Like if you can buy a business for $200,000, $300,000, there's probably a lot of risk of it failing there if you're not a lethally good operator. Then when you buy to like $1 million, $1.5 million, there's a bit more infrastructure. $2 million, $3 million, now you're looking at, okay, these are some established businesses. They've probably been around for a while. They're in the top 4% of businesses. I think you need $1 million in revenue or EBITDA. One of the two. It's either revenue or profit to be in the top 4% of businesses. You really want to be buying somewhere around there. And so you're going to need $100,000 to $200,000, if not $300,000 to get an SBA loan on that type of business. Anyway, you typically buy on a 2 to 3x multiple. Again, your debt's probably going to take 50 to 60% of the cash flow. I would just reserve 60% for some quick and dirty underwriting, but you can also run it through an amortization calculator as you kind of learn more and more about which deal you're going after. Say it costs 60% of the cash flow though. So you have $1 million in cash flow, 600,000 of that is going to pay off debt. You have 400,000 left over. That's going to be for salary and for growth. So either you're the operator and you pay yourself a meager salary, maybe 70, 80, 100,000, 120,000, whatever you want to pay yourself. But remember, every dollar you pay yourself is not going to your business. So pay yourself a salary and then throw the rest into marketing and sales and hiring to grow the business, because that's where the payday is. If you own 100% of that business, or let's say you bring in a capital partner, you give them 20%, you own 80%, or you give them, let's say you give them 50%, you own 50%. Right now that business, you bought it for maybe $2 million. If you increase the sales by 10%, I think you might add $1 million or 1.5 million to that value over the course of 5 to 10 years. If you increase sales by 10% a year, and 10%, it is not easy to accomplish, but it's also not difficult to accomplish. As long as you are putting yourself in the right circles, in the right market, with the right offer, your sales should be increasing. And as you do that, let's say you're making $1 million in sales and you trade it at 2.5x, right? So that's a $2.5 million business. You raise it by 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. You've got like 1.7 million in profit now. So not only are you making an extra $700,000 a year in profit, but that business now sells for not 2.5 million, but right around 3.8, 3.9 million. So you've made $1.4 million in 5 years, and you'll split that with your partner, plus the additional 700,000 a year in cash flow. So that's kind of what a hypothetical business deal can look like, and that's why you pay yourself lower on the salary and invest into growth and invest in yourself as an operator so that you can create that 1.4, 2 million, 3 million, $4 million profit in 5 years. So what are the ways to grow the business? I'm not gonna lie, guys. I don't run businesses yet. I'm making this content to learn about running businesses, and when you have to say stuff to people, you have to make it concise, and so I need to be clear about how I would think about it. So how I would think about running or growing businesses, and this is how I do think about it, honestly. Like, I'm still in a W-2 right now, and when I'm thinking about growing that business so that I get my bonus, I think about restructuring the offer and getting more leads. And those are the two things I think about. If you can make the top of the funnel rain because your offer is on point and you're getting a lot of leads, everything just trickles down the funnel, which eventually, if your product is good, leads to more and more referrals and good word of mouth, which is obviously business growth. So I always think about restructuring the offer and getting more leads, because if you get those two things on lock and you can deliver your offer, I think you have a pretty solid business. I know, simple way to think about it, but I've read Alex Hormozi's books, $100 million offers and $100 million leads, and I've read a lot of like kind of sales books, marketing books, but those were the best business books I've read when it comes to growing and scaling a business and just hearing him talk about business. I feel like I've learned a lot. So when I think about growing businesses, that's what I think about, and that's what I think you should think about when you're looking at a business. Okay, how can I tweak this offer? How can I get more leads? And what personally can I add to the business to take it to where I know it can go? So what do you do after you get commitments? You have explained the hypothetical business deal. You've made the initial connections. You told them how you want to grow the business. You've created this kind of hypothetical case study of a business that you will buy and grow and then exit one day, or hold and then grow through acquisition or whatever it may be. That's another way I'd grow the business, through acquisition. So restructuring the offer, getting more leads, and then just acquiring more customers through purchase. When you get those commitments of money, of capital, you follow up with them on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, or bi-monthly, whatever, once every 2 weeks. Make sure you're following up with those people, because you don't want those leads to die, and you want to make sure you're nurturing those relationships, because you may not need money in the next 6 months, maybe not the next 12, but month 17, when you're ready to buy that business, you want them to be ready to pull the trigger. And that comes from giving them a call every 2 weeks, just checking up, how's life, maybe every 3 weeks, and then present them with deals. Like, now that you have the investment commitments, you need to be out there getting deals. And again, that goes to our proprietary search model, which is like, be sending emails, be shooting out calls, or be talking to brokers, but be networking with sellers and be networking with brokers to get that deal flow and make sure you can make good on those commitments that you've received. So that's what we got for you guys today on the show. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.